The catastrophic crash of Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787, shortly after departing from Ahmedabad en route to London, marks one of the most devastating aviation incidents in recent history. While early speculation pointed to dual-engine failure and a rat-related theory, a deeper dive into the evidence reveals a more complex narrative. In this analysis, we'll explore the facts, debunk myths, and uncover lesser-discussed aspects of this tragedy to provide a clearer picture of what happened. Initial reports suggested that Air India Flight 171 used only half of the runway for takeoff, sparking criticism of the pilots. However, subsequent findings clarified that the aircraft backtaxied to utilize the full 3,500-meter, 11,500-foot runway length, a standard procedure for a heavy wide-body like the 787. Media outlets often conflate requesting the full runway with consuming its entire length to get airborne, leading to widespread confusion. In reality, a typical takeoff for such an aircraft might involve lifting off after approximately 2,500 meters, 8,200 feet, or about 70% of the runway, which aligns with normal operations. By examining satellite imagery and video footage, we can estimate the rotation point, where the aircraft began to lift off, occurred roughly 2,500 meters down the runway, obscured by a small structure in the video. This suggests a standard takeoff roll, contrary to early assumptions that the pilots made an error. Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, ADSB data, which transmits an aircraft's altitude and ground speed, provides a snapshot of Flight 171's trajectory. When compared to other 787 flights from the same airport, the data indicates the aircraft became airborne before reaching the runway's end, consistent with typical performance. However, ADSB relies on uncalibrated barometric altitude, which may exaggerate the aircraft's height above ground, misleading viewers about its climb performance. Without a reference scale, the data lacks precision, and variations in when ADSB signals activate for each flight further complicate comparisons. This data, while useful, is less reliable than the flight data recorder, which has been sent to the US for detailed analysis. The recorder will provide critical insights into the aircraft's exact performance, unlike the approximations of ADSB. The captain, a seasoned instructor pilot with Air India, had amassed over 10,000 hours of flight experience, while the first officer had approximately 3,400 hours, correcting earlier reports of only 1,100 hours. The captain, nearing retirement, was highly regarded in the aviation community and had expressed intentions to care for his aging father post-retirement. Both pilots faced an unimaginable crisis, and their actions likely mitigated further loss of life. The Boeing 787, a state-of-the-art airliner with an excellent safety record, was involved in this tragedy. India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, inspected Air India's 787 fleet and found no systemic safety issues, treating this as an isolated incident rather than grounds for grounding all 787s. A passenger video from a prior flight highlighted issues like non-functional touchscreens and air conditioning, fueling speculation about electrical problems. However, such issues are unlikely to have caused the crash, as they don't directly impact critical systems like engine performance. Before takeoff, pilots conduct a briefing to outline the flight plan, weather, and potential emergencies. The captain typically briefs abnormals, such as rejecting a takeoff below 80 knots for any issue warrant, between 80 knots and V1, for critical failures like an engine fire or loss of thrust. V1, the decision speed, marks the point where aborting a takeoff becomes riskier than continuing with a single engine failure. This speed is calculated to ensure the aircraft can either stop safely on the remaining runway or climb with one engine inoperative. Video evidence doesn't clearly show the takeoff roll start or the critical rotation phase, obscured by a structure. While no yaw, indicative of an engine failure, is visible, the 787's advanced flight controls automatically compensate for such imbalances above 60 knots, potentially masking an issue. The pilot's failure to raise the landing gear post-takeoff, typically prompted by a positive rate call, suggests a catastrophic event distracted them during this critical phase. A widely circulated video appears to show the Ram air turbine RAT, an emergency power source, deployed on the aircraft's right side. The RAT activates in scenarios like a dual engine failure or total electrical loss. However, confirmation of its deployment is pending, as misidentification could invalidate related theories. One hypothesis suggests fuel contamination caused both engines to fail simultaneously. This MS improbable, as the 787's engines draw from separate fuel tanks, and no other aircraft reported contamination issues that day. Another theory posits a total electrical failure, but this wouldn't directly cause engine failure, as engines operate independently of electrical power. A third possibility involves the electronic engine control, EEC, which manages engine performance. If the EEC failed to transition from ground to flight mode, it might have commanded idle thrust upon liftoff. However, EECs have redundancies, and such a failure is unlikely to cause a dual engine shutdown or trigger RAT deployment. The captain's mayday call stating thrust not achieved falling is a critical clue. It suggests a sudden loss of power, but the exact cause, whether mechanical, procedural, or human-related, remains unclear. While speculation must be approached cautiously, a plausible scenario merits consideration. If an engine failed after V1, the pilots may have been overwhelmed by warnings during rotation, neglecting to raise the landing gear. In the chaos, it's conceivable that a pilot mistakenly shut off the fuel control switch for the operational engine instead of the failed one, resulting in a dual engine failure. This human error under extreme pressure could explain the rapid descent. Eyewitnesses reported the captain banking the aircraft moments before impact to avoid a residential area, likely saving numerous lives. This heroic action underscores the pilots' efforts to minimize harm despite the dire circumstances. The crash claimed 279 lives, including 241 passengers and crew and 38 people on the ground. With one miraculous survivor, Air India and its parent company have offered compensation, but no amount can replace the loss felt by families. The flight, a routine journey on June 12, turned tragic, leaving a profound impact on the aviation community and beyond. This analysis aims to clarify misconceptions and highlight the complexity of the crash. As the investigation progresses, the flight data and cockpit voice recorders will reveal more about the sequence of events. For now, we must avoid premature conclusions and honor the victims by seeking the truth through rigorous analysis. When the final report is released, I'll provide an updated breakdown of how multiple factors likely align to cause this tragedy. Thank you for engaging with this exploration of Air India Flight 171. Let's continue to approach such events with respect, curiosity, and a commitment to learning from the past to enhance aviation safety.